Hello. Hi, Charlotte.
Hi.
Welcome to today. I'm absolutely delighted to have you here. It's the first one that we've done following an IAmMe cohort, which was just amazing. And I'm going to start calling this like the Self-Love is a Radical Act podcast. I mean, it's not really a podcast. We're just doing a little trial just now as such. But I really came up with that little saying of self-love as a radical act before, because and we can talk about it a little bit more as we get into this, because actually we don't talk about it enough. So it's quite a radical act, although it ought not to be a radical act. It feels
Absolutely.
at the minute, to be honest. So that's why my kind of mission is to actually not to be a radical act and for it to be just the norm. But also, you know, I really believe that when we love ourselves, we actually boost our mood and definitely lift our spirits on a daily basis.
100%.
It's pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
And so Charlotte, I mean, I can't tell you how much you have brought to my life in the last few months. I mean, like we met during our EFT practitioners course.
Yeah.
So we both became practitioners of EFT, which again is just transformative, how simple and effective it is. It feels like it's been a hidden secret for many of us, but it felt in that weekend, it felt like we had a whole circle of women who we had known for a very long time, although we hadn't really. So it was quite special, I would say, for both of us. And then also your PT instructor, you know, for yourself and then obviously for others, and then obviously an amazing breath coach, which you did bring into the IAmMe cohort, which I am truly grateful for. That was beautiful. Thank you very much for that. So I thought what we'd do is we'd just have a chat around your experience of IAmMe. I mean, look, you know, I set up Ohana Foundation. I mean, it started the fruition of Ohana Foundation a couple of years ago when I was visioning it. And it's now come into reality in the last 6 months, which has been just one of my dreams and my purpose. And then I developed this little IAmMe program, which is very much a self-discovery program.
Yeah.
Where I just get the pleasure and the privilege of holding a space for you to explore you.
Yeah.
For people who are ready to do that. So I'm not wedded to any judgment. I'm not wedded to any outcome. It's just a little simple, gentle process, but not simplistic.
Definitely not.
It's definitely not. So I just wanted to just throw out to you that to say, well, what was your experience? So we did 6 weeks.
Yep.
And I just want to hear from you, for example. I don't know if you want to break it down if it's easier for you for each week, or whichever way you want to just deliver and have a chat about it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess we'll start, not necessarily do week by week, but I'll definitely start with week 1, because you posed the question of how can I love myself more deeply right now, which is something I try and ask multiple times a day, not necessarily just once a day, but in moments where I guess I'm facing like struggle internally myself. And it was such a powerful question to be given, to actually sit and ask how you could care for yourself more. You know, so often you just get caught up in the moment and you lose anything which would bring rationale and perspective back to a situation, and that would give you an opportunity to consider yourself and your internal feelings. So often, especially as an recovering people pleaser, my thoughts are always on others, you know. So to kind of bring that power back to yourself, to gift yourself that question, was huge, like really huge. And I remember you said, like, ask the question, like don't dwell on it lots, just ask the question, answer it, and then just journal as things come up. And that first week I was just journaling kind of non-stop, and I journal, I believe every habit should be like 95% of the time, except for cleaning your teeth. Like, come on, let's try and do that 100%. But you know, like I try to take away the guilt and shame of missing one day, or thinking you failed. Like, you haven't, like, you're human. There's always going to be things that come up. So 95% of the time, if you can make habits, it's just going to enhance your life so much. So I already journal, but that just, I basically put the pen down that week, which was, amazing the amount of stuff that came up. So I've already been in therapy for quite a long time and on my own kind of self-discovery journey. So these two together for me combined was just very, very magical, and possibly in a really good moment for me where I was ready to really challenge myself with your questions. So week one was just very special. I was quite shocked at how much happened within a week.
Yeah. And I think when we were, because I also asked in week one for you to look at where it's missing.
Yeah.
You know, where self-love in which aspects of your life is it missing? I do a little pie chart, don't I? And I thought that was really profound when because you felt so compelled to sharing that on our WhatsApp group, which was, I mean, it blew me away. I don't know if you want to share with us around that particularly.
So that was around the 5 pillars.
It was. Well, there was the one. Do you remember you actually said that you noticed when you thought about it that what was missing was that you don't ask for help?
Ah, yes.
Remember?
Yeah.
And that was like, wow, because that was one of mine. So of course you really helped me when you shared that, actually.
Yeah. So I think what I found, and I have found with journaling, is if I journal, it's powerful, like it's getting stuff out. But if I read it out loud, it's even more powerful. So if I read it out loud and state it, it's another way of getting it out, in my opinion. And since we've done the EFT, I've then been like, well, if I'm going to read it out loud, I might as well tap it back into my body. Because as we both know, as soon as you tap, if there is something in there that's stuck emotionally, or if there's anything, your body's going to send a signal that you need to even delve deeper. So I think it was more that I was finding that moment to journal on those topics, and asking for help is one that I do struggle with. And so I journaled it, and then I spoke it out loud, and then I tapped it in. And then I think I shared back with you all about that as well.
You did. And I found that really profound, because when I did first started doing all these practices around self-love, one of mine is not asking for help.
Yeah.
And it just shows you how it's like an onion, because it just keeps peeling these things. Because I thought, I've done some work on that. But then when you shared that, when you journaled and then you shared the tapping, which is the EFT on the meridian points, you actually shared that when you were writing, and I hope you don't mind me saying this, because it was so apparent to me as well when you articulated it, was that actually you felt that you were a burden.
Yeah.
That's why you didn't ask for help.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, that is so exactly, that's the word. And I hadn't got that word before.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, because that was, and I think just about everybody on the WhatsApp on the course thought the same. You were so generous in sharing that, and I really appreciated that. But that was so beautiful, because it was a moment, I think, for, as I say, certainly for me, which just shows you that every time you do this, you do things because you're meant to do it for yourself as much as for others. Is what you need. So it's a continuation, for sure.
Yeah. I think that also shows the power of the program, how it's set up to work with others, and to have, like, we had the WhatsApp group to be able to share. If you're willing to truly be vulnerable and share with other people, not only are you gifting yourself obviously the chance to work on it yourself, but share it with others and make it real, and see that actually you can be held quite a lot by a lot of people, and a lot of us haven't been through our lives for various different reasons. But also you gift that to everyone else. So those, like, say, sometimes a word just hits you and you're like, oh my goodness, and then somewhere else you need to delve in. And like you say, again, for me, like, the journey of self-love, it's an ever-evolving journey through life, forever. It's forever, right? Because life
is a practice, for sure. Right? It's a daily practice. That's no doubt about that.
And life is going to throw things up all along that pathway, and you might have dealt with a trigger of a certain word or a certain feeling, but actually a slightly different word might hit back into a spot that you haven't quite you never resolve anything fully. Like, nothing ever is truly, in my opinion, it's not like you complete it. You never complete self-love.
I think that's really true, actually, Charlotte, because I think for me as well, what I'm finding is, and I think we chatted about it, before we come online here, is that we are less impacted by the trauma. And I think you said your therapist was a lovely He's saying, what was it he said?
Yeah, that I'm not re-traumatized by the events in the same way. So again, like, you hear a word, and actually, if that's something you've not necessarily worked through, then it might have an impact internally. And that's actually sometimes quite shocking when you think you've kind of dealt with the, I guess, the traumatic side of something that you've worked through. And so you're like, oh gosh, I wasn't expecting that to be raised again. And actually it gives you that opportunity to look at it in another light, in another way, and again, do some work on it, as I say, so that next time it's not painful. It's just happens.
And that's what I'd like you to just share with us as well, because I mean, I don't want people to feel, scared, because actually, and I'd love your view in this as well, but my view is, when you're, in my experience of this, is when you're held in love, because remember, we're holding a container of love during the court, right? And it's a real energetic love, right, for each other and ourselves. Anything that it arises, it comes gently. Now, it could be quite impactful. That's not to say it's not impactful, but it's not scary. It kind of comes. That's what I found. I don't know what your views are on that.
Yeah, like I can hear what you mean though by that. I don't want people to be scared, because sometimes I think, as a breathwork coach, sometimes I explain to people, like, you might get emotions during this, like, that's completely normal. Like like if you don't like it, you can just go back to normal with your breathing and it will probably subside. But actually, you're willing to go with it. That's what your body is asking for right now. It just needs to release, and that's how it's asking you to release. So it's a bit like these things that happen on the journey. I guess it's a personal interpretation, right? Like, I don't think it's scary. I find it, I guess I look at it more as an excitement than a fear. When things come up, and not meaning that I'm gaining joy in that moment that I'm experiencing these things, but I'm excited to discover what's holding me back, like, and how can I address it and work through it so that I can actually live lighter and freer and better. And that whole time we're doing that process, as you say, it's not like it's not overwhelming as it comes up. It's just bringing awareness to you. It's just bringing things to the forefront that have been maybe hidden quite far back for a long time. And the group was so supportive. Like, I never share in learning environments. It's something that's very new for me from previous things that happened during school. And I felt so safe to share with those people. Like, everybody that's come on that journey is there for the same purpose. And
so the weave that goes around us and through us, it's all so similar, because it's the female wound, right? We have a lot of similarities in terms of we don't feel enough, we our voices have been quietened and all those things. And so therefore we tend to find, when we're together doing the course, that we actually are discovering similarities, different, but similar. So therefore, it's a real collective of help, actually, which I love. And I'm really curious, because again, you did brilliant sharing around the 5 pillars. Now, the 5 pillars for me are just incredible, and of course they are for you, because I mean, so many of them are in your work already, which is so cool. Because the 5 pillars, like, are they're kind of movement, they're nourishment, they're breath work, their mindset, and their rest. Those are the actual fundamentals of the kind of 5 pillars of success and self-love. And I'd love you just to tell me what your views and opinions were of those when you discovered those.
So I guess I thought it would be interesting just to journal. So each day I just took a topic through the week and I journaled on it with my relationship with each of those topics. And again, how much my relationship, I guess, has changed over time through doing my own work. And I think, again, I tapped in on them, and then I shared with the group as well, which for me was super powerful. It was really interesting to see how much the relationship has changed. I think that was what was so powerful for me, coming from, I guess, I've grown up with eating disorders and body dysmorphia, which is something I still struggle with quite a lot. So movement and nourishment have been, really challenging over the years, and both have been kind of restricted or a punishment in a certain way, rather than looked on as, movement should be done for joy, for the fact that you can use your body. Like, how amazing that we have our bodies, and if we're lucky enough that they work and that we're healthy, like, that's an incredible gift. So I think I kind of journaled on the change in my relationship around there. Again, I think this just brought so much to my mind of how far I've come on my journey, because again, we often don't give ourselves that acknowledgement. So how can I love myself more deeply right now? So as I was looking at those things, was by acknowledging that I've done really well, that I've come really far, and that I view these things with such a loving aspect towards myself. So now when I consider movement, it's an act of love, like, so is nourishing my body, you know. So I think it kind of showed me that and allowed me to feel like go on, like, you've done really well, which we don't often celebrate ourselves.
Because we've been doing the work, you see. Sometimes, again, we get into the doing the work, don't we? And we forget to just slow down and just journal. Because I was talking to a friend yesterday, actually, and I wouldn't mind your views on this. She was like, I just can't journal. I just find it really hard. And what advice would you give to somebody who said that? Because, I mean, obviously we have been journaling. And so, you know, and I know the benefit to me, and I know the benefit to you because of what you've shared. But what would you say if somebody said that to you?
I would probably say, first of all, don't put the pressure on to do it as an everyday. Just, if you can, buy a notepad, a beautiful notepad that you like the look of. So it makes you want to look at it, makes you want to maybe touch it. A nice pen. Here's my journal, like, I like it. It's with me most of the time, which is because you never know, right? Exactly. So have no pressure on how or when you're going to journal. And there are so many journals out there with prompts, and I've been given them before as gifts many times, and it was really great to begin with for an all or nothing personality. I was all in, and then I didn't do it, and then I'd failed multiple times, and there were so many sections to complete. So this is just a lined pad. Like, there is no rules in my journal at all. I don't have to record if I've hydrated, if I've, you know, there was so many things in some of which is lovely for some people, but for me, I needed no rules at all. And I would say to someone, if you could just write down every day, one way of going about it would be just to write down one gratitude line a day is a starting point. Because if you can start to instill a positive trait like that, that can be really, really beneficial. Like, there's loads of studies around gratitude, how it rewires the brain, you know, and if you can get into the habit cycle 21 days plus, you're probably going to be on a really good string. But then I guess the other thing I would say is, if you can't write, is there another outlet for you? Like, does speaking help? If so, could you record yourself talking every day? Do you like painting or drawing? Could you do some art? So, like, all of this is just a form of creativity, journaling, and it's done in the form of writing. So, you know, you might not be a writer, and that's okay.
Yeah. And I think that bit about the brain, because the brain is an expectant machine, right? Because and what we're trying to do is get into the other parts of us, not just the brain, through this. And so it's actually quite nice to just do that kind of gratitude, so that the brain goes, oh, right, I've done gratitude before. It's like that kind of anchor question, isn't it? It's like, because neuroscience is a thing, right? And we talk about that on the IAmMe as well. I mean, because it is a thing, and there's loads of research around it. And now the scientists are coming into the woo-woo, you know, it's really incredible. Which I love, because of course it's real, right? The one thing is that in terms of stories, we talk about, you know, what stories are you telling yourself, and what did you discover? And I know you had done work around this, but what did you discover around the stories you were telling yourself? Because we do tell ourselves stories all the time, by the way. This brain is hugely powerful. We're just made up of stories, right? So that we've told because of the people that have told them before us, all the, you know, people around us telling the stories, society, school, parents, everyone, and then the ones we've told to keep ourselves safe, I guess.
Exactly. So I think one of the biggest ones for me, which was very early on, and it made me face like my imposter syndrome, was because I was like, oh my God, I'm going on this program, amazing person, and like all these amazing people, and they've all got really good jobs. And as ever, for me, it was, and I'm just a coach, like, and I'm just a nothing, which has kind of been my story most of my life, because I didn't take the traditional university path and all the things that would have been wanted for me from my from my parents, you know, so I did it differently. And kind of that's weighed heavy on me for a long, long time. And I think as I was sat in one of the calls, somebody said I'm going to say they were a lawyer, maybe. And as I sat there, I was like, oh, here we go. Like, and I could feel it inside. And I was like, oh my God. And again, like we've talked already, I think before the call, I don't think it's been on this recording, about judgment. And that judgment is just something inside me. Like, so when I hear their job title, that's all a judgment within me from the story that I've created, from what I've been told and what I've learned. So I did loads of journaling around imposter syndrome and actually what success means to me, because actually I was just sitting there and my story sits in me that because someone's a lawyer, or because someone's an architect, or because someone has a big job title, they're a CEO, which I actually am of my own business. Like, so I don't even like
I'm a founder. I mean, hello.
So, but I don't use that title because I wouldn't have ever put those titles on myself, because I didn't feel worthy. I'm 40 next year and I've just set up my second company. So like, you know, but I don't view it like that. So I was like, so I've heard those titles, and to me, that's what I've been told success is. So I've basically never got to success. I've not been there. And as we were working through the journey, I think particularly after week 1, and we write a love letter to ourselves. And I remember you saying on your first cohort, only one person wrote the letter, and it just said, I am sorry, which this gives me goosebumps. Just every time I've told people this story a few times, and every time my whole body gets covered in goosebumps, because I'm like, I feel like I want to give that person a hug. Like, for that to be your love letter is, you know, really quite shocking. You know how
found though, right?
Yeah. So I guess I started to realize that actually I've been on a journey for a long time of self-development and self-love, but I hadn't really realized that's what I've been doing. Like, I've realized that a journey of self-love is very similar to doing a journey of therapy, depending on how you view therapy. And I was like, I'm actually quite successful. If I was to write my definition of success, I'm content in my life. You know, I can feel joy. I do move. I do nourish my, you know, when I then wrote down my view of what success is as a person, your job title didn't even feature in my list. So suddenly I was like, wow, so actually I'm pretty successful. So that story had kept me feeling rubbish a lot of the time in a lot of situations. And suddenly I was like,
it wasn't even,
no, not even my story. It's just the story I'd been passed and been told that is, because this is a problem a lot with school. We're very much told that this is the route, this is it. Like, and anything outside of that, you're not normal. So, you know, so to have that, to kind of see that and face those stories has been amazing. Like, so
and that's what I mean by this doing this very incredible work with these very simple questions, right? It's so profound when you look inside yourself, and as you say, you've just redefined what success looks like for you. And you realize that was a story that belonged to your mother, your father, whoever else, but not in your school, but not you. And that's just, I mean, just to like shed that is pretty cool, right? I mean, I really admire that and love that. And this is what I mean by coming on to doing a course and to doing, you know, a 6-week discovery. And I make it 6 weeks intentionally, right? Because the 21 days, you mentioned it a wee bit earlier, 21 days is when a habit starts to form, right? So, and it's only 6 sessions, it's only 6 hours actually that you're we're together, but there's a lot of work you're doing because it's your work. So it's very private, very self, very up to you. I just set some questions and just give a bit of a framework, because it's really hard sometimes, you know, to know what to do, right? So I just give that little framework, because that's what I found when I got a framework. It was much easier for me to help myself to start exploring. But so I would say, and I'd love your opinion actually, because of course I love this, because this is what I'm blinking doing, right? So what I want your opinion on is, does anybody, because I mean, you and I have been on a long journey, right? This is not just, but by the way, we're doing the work, right? Because we've
Yeah.
had loads going on in our lives, which is for another podcast, and loads going on, and we've had to face it to ourselves, right? Because we need to become well and to become healthy and become happy and joyful. I love the word joyful. Yeah. Would you recommend anybody could come on the IAmMe? Because and why would you say that? Because I would really love your opinion. Because of course I wax lyrical about it all the time. Do you know what I mean?
No, I would say it's suited to absolutely everybody, like wherever you are in your journey. If you've never even considered a journey of looking inward, of self-love, of therapy, whatever word you want to use for this, then I would say it's 100% appropriate for you. And I would say if you've been in the depths of therapy, if you've done everything you possibly think you could have, it's still absolutely essential as a journey. And it's very different because, as you say, you do all the work really truly on your own. Like you only ever can. A therapist doesn't do the work for you. They just hold the space. That's all they do. They help you to find perspectives. They help to ask the right questions at the right moments to help you to go away to do your work. So they don't do it for you. It's always a journey by yourself. But with this, like with a therapist, you've got someone holding your hand, you've got someone helping you. With this, you've got a collective. In our situation, this was a collective of women supporting you and allowing you. I think it's Brené Brown, isn't it? She talks about how if someone's light is shining, you want to help them to let it shine as brightly as you can. And you don't want to do anything to extinguish it. You just want to celebrate with them their amazing light. And when it's your turn to shine, they will help you to celebrate their light. You never want to take someone's light away. And I felt like that's what happened along the journey in this group, is that, for example, when I journaled on those things and I tapped and I shared it with you and you were like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I was like, oh my God, so nice. Like she's just literally, and I went after the call, I went and told my husband, I was like, oh my God, they said this about me. It was really nice. And I think, as you know, after that, it led to me sharing about my struggle to take good feedback, which I then journaled on. I then tapped on that, and I had the biggest release I've ever had. Like from EFT, I was really shocked. I wasn't even expecting that level of release. I've been working on receiving positive feedback for like 2 years, and it was just in a session where you just were honestly giving me nice feedback without even knowing that I have this struggle. And then I went away and shared it with my husband, and then as I was telling him, I was kind of leaving the room. He was like, wait, let's just celebrate this for a moment. And I was like, and he was like, I know it's really difficult. And I was like, I need to journal on it because I've got to face it now. See, that's the thing, it brings stuff to you. And if you're willing to face it, you can. So as a result of that and tapping and releasing, even now, receiving feedback is getting easier again, which is amazing.
Done, because you are, I'm going to say it again, I mean, you are incredibly generous and amazing, and I know that that's something you're working on in terms of receiving that. But we as women, and I think it's the world, but let's just talk about us as women, we don't receive. And that's one of the things that why I started on this journey was I did a very simple exercise with a coach years ago, and we discovered that I discovered that I gave a lot of love, but I really didn't receive a lot of love. And it was really like, wow, that's a huge wow. Another coach said to me, say around the same time, I mean, I was very blessed. I had loads of amazing people in my life being paid for by my corporate company. And they said to me, have you ever thought about stopping thinking and actually looking inside you? And I was like, no, you do? I've never done that before. It's something that, and this is why I think doing the IAmMe is a very gentle way of you starting the journey, as well as, if you're more advanced. And one of the things I wanted to ask you around was, did you, when we ask for you to go and ask people for feedback and how did that feel for you?
Well, again, it was interesting. I had already done that as a kind of exercise in my life. So I didn't repeat it. I just went back and listened to the feedback again, because I'd randomly WhatsApp 2 friends to ask them whether I was an okay friend, because I'd had from doing lots of work and putting in boundaries, I had some people leave my life. And I think it's quite common along the way when you start actually putting boundaries into your life. And I was, as ever, this must be something to do with me, that I must be really bad at friendship, or, you know, and this is why these people are leaving. So I'd actually reached out to receive feedback on, are you an okay friend? And I'd asked them to be really, really honest. And I actually received really, really lovely feedback, which it was very shocking to me, because I was just expecting them to give me the reason why I was bad. The reason why you're a bad friend.
Validate who I, you know, just validate me, please.
So I was fully expecting these voice notes to be like, well, actually, you're really rubbish at this, so that's possibly what's happened, and then I'd be able to fix it. You know, that's basically.
Of course, we're all solutioners.
So that's what I'd kind of, and I was almost like really taken aback by the positive feedback, and I was like, gosh, this is really actually quite shocking. You know, like someone thinks I'm all right, kind of thing. So I kind of reflected on that when you did it, but I think you also set us the task of, like, you know, celebrating people, which I love, like celebrating people. I think it's such a, again, it just brings joy, doesn't it, to them, to you, like, so.
I think it's one of the, do you know what? If you do nothing else, that's one of the best things to do on a daily basis, is just send a little note to somebody just to see how they are, or a little card, or a little thing you've seen. Because I tell you what, to your point, the joy it brings you, because you're reading it that anyway, and then you're giving. And I know when somebody sends me, when I receive, I feel so good. So I just know they're feeling good when they receive it. So I think we all should be doing that for each other. And then the other thing I was going to ask you around was, what was it? We did celebrating everything.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I love that one. Because it's like, even when something like kind of goes awry, just because it's there to teach you something, right?
Yeah.
You're fully in noticing, because during IAmMe, you're very alert to noticing stuff and to feeling and receiving, right? So because you're alert, which I think is what it does. It makes you a little bit more, for at least for that period of time, a bit alert, right?
Yeah.
So did you like that one, or
absolutely. You know, again, like celebrating anything that brings joy to me is a great thing. And also, I think you asked us to write down 15 things we love about ourselves.
I did.
And also like 7 wishes.
I did.
Yeah. And that was a really nice exercise to do. Like,
exactly.
Really nice. Yeah.
It's a beautiful exercise to do, because what I found when I did it, and also your previous cohorts, was some of the ladies have said that if you had asked them to do it at the beginning, they could have probably written 2 things, but by the end of the 6 weeks, they could actually write more than 15, which I thought was such a compliment to them, that they had really. And the 7 wishes, I like the 7 wishes, because I did the same. Oh, so nice to write those wishes, for sure. Love that. And so if you were, because I know we're coming up to time, but I've had an absolutely amazing conversation, so thank you for this. If you were to say 3 things, 3 words, and it's just about IAmMe, self-love, and really paying attention to yourself, what would you say if I was to ask you 3 words?
3 words. 3 words for self-love, IAmMe. So, reflection. Joy.
Yeah.
And just love.
Oh, lovely. That is absolutely beautiful. And I would love to add in there, so reflection, absolutely, joy. Oh my goodness. And another exercise, which we will do another podcast at some point about, is finding that joy, because it's very different to happiness, actually, which you will have realized, and I realized, because it takes a bit longer to find joy. And I love that, the self-love. But the other thing is integration.
Oh, so important.
I never really appreciated that till the last year or so, because you've got to let things in. With all this work that's happening, is that literally there's so much. You've got to take time to rest, and time to let it almost just get into your whole core, because don't try. This has been years that we've been living in patriarchy, right? Years that we've been trying to learn and being told certain ways to live, and it takes a long time, you know. So don't be too impatient with yourself.
Yeah.
And my little dog is somebody's just chapped my door, and he's obviously trying to get to see them, because he loves everybody, because he is the personification of love. I tell you, this little chap. If I needed anybody to teach me how to be, I just need to look at my animals.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they're very good teachers. They're very good teachers.
Teacher.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, Charlotte, I want to say a huge thank you. 1, for everything you shared. 2, for being in my life. And 3, for giving me your time today.
Oh, my pleasure, Wendy.
Thank you so much. And it's been amazing.
Well, thank you very much for even just coming up with this program, and for going on the EFT course, because we wouldn't have met.
Great.
So, yeah.
So, lots of love. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.